Welcome to our table talk. We're up at Fagan Park. It's a lovely place. One day we might take you on a little walk, but not today. Okay, Catherine, introduce what we're doing.
Okay, well this is Hikairo or Hikairo Phillips, and I'm Catherine J or Catherine Ellis, and this is part of our F7 Building Blocks to Freedom if this is your first time with us, and this is a table talk. So our table talks can sort of be serious, they might be about fun things, could be really anything. They could be 2 minutes, they could be 25 minutes, just depends. So what are we talking about today?
I reckon a Dummies interpretation of world events. How about that? So we keep it simple, we're not going to get technical, because I think when you get technical you lose sight of actually what's happening.
Yeah.
And so for me it's about, you know, when we were a child we thought as a child things were simple, they weren't complex. We got on with life, we trusted our environment, we trusted those close to us, and life was good. But as we grow, all of a sudden it becomes about knowledge, it becomes about interpreting things, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we can get lost in this whole interpretation and the stuff we hear, see, especially with media. And I'm sure if you're watching media, you'll know they actually like to falsify or not actually tell the truth. They seem to sell more papers if they've got an untruth rather than actually trying to, you know, like share the truth. And that I suppose at the end of the day we're about truth. And so so I thought Dummies perspective on what's happening. So where you go,
Just
Catherine?
before we do that, just talking about media, I actually wrote a blog article about it and just the change. It's about fact. So years ago it was about integrity in reporting and facts, whereas now it's about your opinion, and you know what's trending on Twitter is on news, which is just crazy. So yeah, I believe we're going to go back to what was wonderful, and you know, with integrity and all of that. But what's happening around the world? Okay, one thing nobody seems to be talking about. There's a saying and a song, you could probably sing it, money makes the world go around. And nobody seems to be talking about the money. So we've had a lot of people spending lots of money, especially government spending lots of money. So if we all know that so Dummies Guide, if you have your income minus your expenses, if it's negative, you know you're heading towards bankruptcy. If it's even, like break even, and something happened, you've got no money, so you're heading towards bankruptcy. So we must always remain in the black, as they say, which means we've got money to spend, to give away, to invest for the future. Especially with COVID, we know everyone's been spending too much. But what was missed in the news this week, I don't know why, but in America they just announced the first digital currency bank. It's a Delaware company. I'm a bit on the fence. Like Hikairo said to me, it's about being simple. Yes, creation is so intricate and so amazing. However, there's simple rules in life. It's like they're simple, aren't they?
Well, that's simple. So if you're talking money, okay, you need to look at, you know, like where you can invest, whether you need to be putting into money or looking at other options. And so we're looking at other options because it's a safe, security in terms of moving forward. And so, yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, like, so we're looking at things like gold, what was the other one? Silver. Yeah, because, you know, it doesn't lose value, whereas with money, like Catherine's saying, we're trying to keep it as a Dummies interpretation, not getting too complex. So whereas with money, they're just printing heaps and heaps of it, so it's going to have no value. So if it's got no value and they keep printing it, well, it means don't seek after it. Look for stuff that's going to hold its value, and then that's what you invest in. So,
and the day that they approved it was the day that they impeached Trump.
Yeah, so there's Trump. So that's one issue we've been thinking about, and then, you know, it's about masks. That's another thing. You know, there's a lot of media hype about wearing masks in Sydney where we currently live. You know, like it's well, we need to wear them now when we're out in the shopping complexes, anywhere where there's people, where there's crowds. And so everyone has a view, has their opinion. Well, my view from a Dummies perspective is they don't work, and there's a lot of information that tells you that it's more of a hazard than it is
doctors,
from doctors and, you know, people who look into the facts. But they hide the truth, and then they fearmonger. They put fear into you. And so for me anyway, my personal opinion is when I wear them, I can't talk properly, I can't breathe. They inhibit, your ability to show personality. And yes, but the biggest thing is it's actually hard to breathe, and that they're just uncomfortable, and there's no need for it. So yeah, so I don't think they're good things. So when I don't need to wear them, I wear them out of respect, because that's the government and we have to honour them, even though I disagree when we're around people, because we don't want to, Where this morning we actually went to get a coffee from a place we love to get coffees from, and tell them a little story, Catherine.
It was interesting. It was the first time we went in there, and it looked different. Obviously, all the Christmas decorations were down. It's a place we go to very often, love it, never had a bad coffee. And this morning, as soon as we walked in, there was no one initially in there, and then a young lady came out who I hadn't seen before, and she said, "Can you wear a mask, please?" But it was just...
It's abrupt.
It was very
not
abrupt.
welcoming.
She didn't say, "Good morning, how are you? Oh, I'm sorry. Could you please put your mask on?" We had our mask there. We just forgot genuinely just walking in. And so straight away we're like, "Oh, okay," we put our masks on. But imagine if we hadn't been to that shop before, we would never want to go back. And I think because of that, our coffees, which we've never had a bad one there before in years of going there, even the coffee didn't feel like love. There was no love in the coffee.
Gotta have a bit of love in the coffee.
Yeah.
We had no love, so it's still sitting over there. So that's some masks.
So just to remember, okay, we have to wear masks. We've been told we have to wear masks, even if we have seen so much evidence that it doesn't really help. But we just respect. We have to follow the government. But also on that, I just want to honour Craig Kelly in the Parliament. He seems to be the only one that's actually offering alternate. And so yesterday he put something out and said that, I'm not sure the name of it, ivermectin something or other, one of the particular medicines that seems to be really helping, and there's so much evidence. So just thank you to the people that are standing up against the status quo, because I believe that sometimes that the people that, especially the chief medical officers and the teams, perhaps they're not looking at other evidence, which is so many doctors around the world. There's 500 or even 1,000 doctors that are signing up to different things in different countries, especially out of Germany and different places. They're talking about all these different cures or different things about it, which is not getting onto mainstream or into government advice, for example.
Okay, so I don't know what they had to do with masks, but anyway.
Well, it's just for people standing up and saying, well, maybe that there is evidence saying that.
Well, there is evidence. It's out there. Read, do your homework.
Yeah, but it's not the point. We wear them. We have to respect government. We absolutely respect government.
So
they
that's
are there.
it. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so maybe just a thought on 2021, because we're already what's it now, about 18 days, 17 days into
17th today?
2021.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure everyone had great aspirations and thought the old COVID bit was over and done with, but it looks like it's come across, and if anything it looks like they're upping the tempo in terms of like expectations and fear mongering and and so
bringing hope.
Yeah, so 2021, What do you think, Catherine, in terms of, you just said the word hope, so how can we bring hope when there's a lot of despair, when people are still worried about, security, about, like in terms of home, work, the future, it looks a wee bit bleak in a sense, but it doesn't need to be.
Tell a story.
Tell a story, then we'll see you later.
Story, because he doesn't like long stories. I was in Indonesia in numerous times, 97, 98, when we had the Asian monetary crisis, or Krismon, and it was huge. There was so much political instability, there was economic instability, there was so many different, there was riots, it was horrible. And just a few things that really stood out at that time, it was massive corruption, especially with President Suharto and his family, and so absolute power corrupts absolutely over time. So no matter what your how good someone may have been when they went in. If you have absolute power and you're not held accountable, of course there's going to be corruption. So I believe it's mirroring what's happening at the moment. There's a lot of corruption being found out, especially in different countries, Netherlands, Estonia,
2021.
Italy. So I'm just sharing that. So what happened in 97, 98? There was all this stuff happening, and then there was mass demonstrations, but the TVs went off and they had government scrolling messages. Even Google went down. I can remember trying to get into my Gmail for 10 days, 14 days. I just couldn't get in. And there was runs on the bank, so the banks closed. All these different things happened. But through it all, I believe in God. So through it all, I trusted God. And I was like, okay, now's not a good time to get money out of the bank when I could get to it, because I was losing so much money on the exchange rate. And I share all that to say that this too will pass, but also even if those things do happen, even in the next week or two, obviously there's massive things changing because they have just announced a digital bank, and there's a whole another story behind that. However, when I went back 2 years later to Yogyakarta, my friends who had lost their jobs, some of them had lost their cars, all these different things, that they weren't able to live where they were living anymore. They had to sometimes move back in with their parents. But 2 years later, it was one of the most profound lessons I've ever learnt in my life. People were so much happier. They weren't on their phones 24/7. They weren't, running around and buying the latest clothes or having the latest phone. It wasn't all about status and privilege. Really good friends of mine had just had a baby, and they were back living in the village, which they swore they would never do. Other friends had started up like it's almost like an old-fashioned little lemonade stand. So what I'm saying is, you get back to basics, go outside, breathe fresh air, smell the roses, look at what you can do. What is important in life? Family is important, friends are important. Getting back to basics, and just, what do you want to do? Sometimes dreams fall down. But sometimes what we've been going for, like money, status, having the perfect Instagram life, that's not what's important in life.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Now, for a dummy, that's quite a long interpretation. So it was meant to be simple. So for 2021, it's about holding on to those values that are truth. And there's old-time values like, if you love, it comes back to you. If you're trustworthy, it comes back to you. And those things are not going to change. So it's important, from a dummy's perspective, is not to lose sight of who you are as a person, integrity. All those things are biblical and they remain. And so for me, it's about being strong in those values, not letting them go. And it doesn't matter what happens, even though you might be buffeted, life might be tough, just hold on to those things, because they will prevail, they will come through. And if you've known that they've worked for you in the past, they'll work for you again. So look, thank you for your time. I hope you glean something from it, because, and like we said, I want to come back to that, the simplicity of life. Keep life simple, declutter. That's what I'm trying to do, and it's a bit of a task, but we're going to get there. And just let's be thankful that there's a God who created us. He knows better, and just turn our focus to Him. Okay, Catherine, just tell them, wind it up, and then we're going to say bye-bye for now.
Okay, this has been a table talk. We're also going to be filming perhaps a board talk and a podium talk later today, so keep an eye out for those. They're on different playlists on our website or on our YouTube station, F7 Building Blocks to Freedom. However, just be aware we're not politically correct in the traditional sense, so we may have to look at going onto a different platform. So go to im2.tv, sign up. Hang on, don't turn it off yet. im2.tv and sign up for our newsletter. Thanks for watching.